They say that the most important journey you'll ever take is the journey of self-discovery. For me, that journey began on an ordinary fall afternoon, though looking back, I see that it started much, much earlier. I was 18 years old, sitting in my freshman dorm room at college. My roommate had gone home for the weekend, leaving me alone with my thoughts, which were constantly stirred up by this new environment. Everything felt so fresh, and I felt as if I were encountering pieces of myself that had been hiding under years of dust and self-doubt. I'd been feeling this strange, gnawing discomfort lately, a vague dissatisfaction that I couldn't quite place, even though life seemed pretty good. I had friends, decent grades, and a plan for the future. But under the surface, I knew something was missing. My journey actually started long before I acknowledged it, as most journeys of this sort do. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the moments, the questions I buried, the feelings I avoided. For as long as I could remember, I had tried to fit into the mold of who I thought I was supposed to be. I liked sports, I was interested in girls, or I told myself I was interested in them. I did everything a teenage boy in a small town is supposed to do. I went to prom, had girlfriends, hung out with the guys. But each of these experiences felt like I was playing a part in a movie. It was like watching my life from behind a screen, never fully engaging, never fully feeling present. There were signs, of course, signs I hadn't wanted to see. I remember the first time I felt something strange toward a boy in middle school. It was just a crush, something small and confusing, but I brushed it aside as just admiration. When I saw other guys in relationships with girls, I always felt a mixture of envy and confusion, but I told myself I just hadn't met the right girl yet. These rationalizations piled up, and I had become an expert, at burying the truth. Back in my dorm that autumn, things were different. College was a place where people were suddenly so open. My roommate was dating another guy, and it was a fact so casually shared with me on our first day that it threw me off. I remember sitting on my bed, nodding like I understood, though internally, I was grappling with questions I hadn't let myself ask in years. Seeing him live so openly was eye-opening. He had talked about his boyfriend like it was the most natural thing in the world. I'd never seen anyone speak that way before, and it fascinated me. One night, my roommate invited me out with a group of his friends. As we sat around in a dimly lit cafe, drinking coffee and sharing stories about high school and hometowns, I felt this strange sense of belonging. One of his friends, Ryan, was sitting across from me, telling a funny story about his disastrous attempt at learning to surf. I remember watching him laugh, and for a brief second, feeling something I couldn't name. It was an innocent moment. He caught me looking, and I looked away, flustered. But that was the moment a door creaked open. I went back to my dorm room that night, feeling strangely alive. My thoughts were wild and jumbled, spinning around the possibility that I had always known. I realized that I'd spent years pushing away these feelings because I thought they didn't fit into the life I was supposed to lead. I remembered the crush I'd had on my childhood best friend, the confusing feelings I had whenever I saw certain actors on screen, the way I'd always felt different but never quite known why. These weren't random occurrences, they were pieces of the puzzle that finally started to make sense. A few weeks later, I took a bold step. I joined an LGBTQ+ club on campus, telling myself I was just curious. I sat in the back row, listening to people talk about their lives and experiences, feeling this overwhelming sense of recognition. They were saying things I'd only thought, expressing fears I'd buried, describing moments of realization that echoed my own. I walked out of that room with my head spinning, but I knew there was no going back now. One evening, I found myself alone with Ryan again. We'd started to spend more time together, both as part of the same friend group and on our own. He had this easy confidence about him that I both envied and admired. We were sitting outside, looking at the stars, when he asked me a question I wasn't expecting. "Have you ever been in love?" he asked, turning his gaze toward me. I froze, completely unprepared. It felt like he could see right through me, to the layers of denial and self-doubt. I shook my head, trying to deflect, but he pressed on gently. "You know, sometimes it takes time to figure out who you really are," he said. "I didn't come out until I was 17. Sometimes we're so focused on being who we think we should be that we don't let ourselves be who we actually are. I'll never forget the way he looked at me, his eyes kind and understanding. It was like he was offering me a bridge to walk over, a way to step into the unknown. I took a deep breath, feeling this terrifying but liberating sense that I was on the edge of something huge. I started, stumbling over my words. I think I might be gay. Saying it out loud was both terrifying and exhilarating. I looked down, expecting to feel shame or embarrassment, but instead, I felt a wave of relief so intense it almost made me cry. Ryan smiled and patted my shoulder, saying, "Welcome to the club, man." From that moment on, things changed. It wasn't an instant transformation, but I felt as if I had crossed a threshold. Slowly, I began to let myself feel things I'd spent years hiding. I started to appreciate the small details I'd never let myself enjoy, the way my heart sped up when I was around someone I liked, the thrill of opening up to new friends about who I was. I realized that my feelings weren't wrong or strange. They were just mine. Coming out to my family and friends took time, and it wasn't easy. There were awkward conversations, some painful rejections, and more than a few tears. But for every setback, there was someone who offered acceptance and love. Each time I told my story, I felt lighter, freer. I realized that hiding had only been a prison of my own making. Now, years later, I look back on that journey with a sense of pride. I am grateful for the friends who walked beside me, the mentors who helped me find my way, and even for the moments of confusion and doubt. Each part of that journey brought me closer to myself. Finding out I was gay wasn't about discovering a label. It was about uncovering a part of me that had always been there, just waiting to be seen. Now I see life with new colors, richer and more vibrant. I am finally living my truth, and that's a gift I'll cherish for the rest of my life.